could all be together in person, but I appreciate the opportunity to join you in virtual community. First and foremost, to say thank you. Thank you to the entire MGH community for your tireless dedication, for your innumerable personal sacrifices, for putting yourself in harm's way in order to keep our families and our communities safe during these unprecedented times. Unprecedented certainly seems the word for 2020. An unprecedented public health crisis, which has created unprecedented economic hardship and despair. And on top of that, unprecedented loss of life, 300,000 lives. And that burden has been disproportionately borne by our most marginalized and vulnerable communities. Now, the pandemic has really exposed, it's laid bare and exacerbated longstanding systemic inequities in our society, particularly for our most vulnerable and marginalized Black and Brown, immigrant, and other vulnerable neighbors. And then to be experiencing this unprecedented hurt, which comes at the end of 4 years of hateful rhetoric and even more hateful policies. Policies from this administration which have targeted DACA and TPS holders. They've implemented cruel family separation policies at our borders and in community. They've weaponized ICE to sow fear and distrust and trauma. And to add insult to injury, in that our immigrant and most marginalized communities have been disproportionately impacted by this pandemic. The current administration has insisted that our immigrant neighbors be excluded from all federal COVID relief. But despite this, despite the cruelty of this administration, our immigrant neighbors and communities have stepped up in the face of this pandemic. Many are our essential workers, and they've also stepped up with unprecedented community and compassion for one another. They were the first to mobilize and to serve communities in response to the outbreak of COVID-19, translating resources and other information for community members on where they could get tested for COVID-19 in Chelsea, Haitian restaurants in Mattapan, resourcing supplies to provide folks with free hot meals, and of course, the large number of essential immigrant healthcare workers who have put in more than their fair share of overtime. Many of the nurses, health aides, translators, doctors, and hospital staff who put their lives at risk to ensure our families and our communities are safe during this pandemic have been immigrants. Even when their place in our country has been questioned unfairly, they have always answered the call to service. I have seen up close the love and the pride of our immigrant neighbors, their hard work, their resiliency, and indeed their patriotism. I want to be abundantly clear that we are going to make it through this pandemic thanks to the contributions of immigrants to our country, in particular, their contributions to our healthcare system. And I'm eternally grateful for the sacrifices they've made. As we speak, my progressive colleagues and I are fighting for a COVID relief package that meets this moment, one that includes direct cash relief in the form of reoccurring monthly payments to help families meet their most basic needs, including for our immigrant neighbors in mixed status families. Rent and mortgage cancellation so no one has to worry about losing their home. A nationwide eviction and foreclosure moratorium to keep people safely housed. Workplace protections and PPE for those who can't work from home. Expanded and extended unemployment assistance, and investments in state and municipal aid, including our public transit systems and our public schools. And of course, advocating that no one be left behind in this relief. And that includes our immigrant neighbors who up until this point have been excluded from all federal relief. The pandemic is certainly not discriminating, even if some communities are disproportionately bearing the hurt more than others. The pandemic is not discriminating. And if everyone is feeling the hurt, then everyone should feel the relief. I've always maintained that the people closest to the pain should be closest to the power. And I continue to be guided by that mantra to practice that. And that's why every day, to my colleagues across the aisle and to anyone who'll listen, I'm uplifting the stories of your families, the stories of struggle, of perseverance, of resilience, and of your immense contributions during these unprecedented times. I find hope knowing that we will get to the other side and we'll get there together. Thank you.